Festo is showing off a jellyfish, a kangaroo, and a butterfly robot. An AI-generated movie of Lord of the Rings, if it was set in Cyberpunk 2077, is incredible. Former President Donald Trump went on Logan Paul's podcast to talk about how ChatGPT can write presidential speeches. Harvard and Google's DeepMind teamed up to build a virtual rat brain that seems pretty much like a true duplicate. AI-enabled recycling robots are helping businesses be more sustainable. There's a new AI-powered tool that looks for tumor DNA in your blood, and it's showing unprecedented accuracy. There's a secret unit inside of our military that's actually designing and printing 3D drones in 48 hours. A contestant was disqualified for an AI-generated photo contest by using a real photo. OpenAI just brought a retired cybersecurity expert from the military onto their team. And MIT has invented a new Jurassic Park-like DNA storage system that can support your DNA or digital photos like the ones you take on your iPhone for centuries. Let's get into it. But first, let's check in on Alan's conservative countdown to AGI. And as of today, we are still 74% of the way there. So if you've ever been thinking about robotic jellyfish, I got one for you. All right, so let's talk with some not even close to new robots, but still fascinating designs that we should start thinking about because they're coming soon with AI from Festo Robotics. So I personally just found out about this company and I am shocked with how much they have been doing over the last 7 or 8 years. Look at the robots they have designed. These are 6 robots that have all come out of Festo. They have this bird, I guess bat. That thing is straight up Batman if you paint that thing black and throw a yellow symbol around it. How do you describe that? Why does that look so different than any other flying robot? It's soft and bendable and agile, and it makes me think that with the new kind of artificial intelligence that exists today, powering something like that, holy cow. And look, there's enough room in that body that you could fit one of the new Arduino boards with the 13 TOPS AI processors on it. So these guys just do such natural designs with the kind of materials that just feel super organic. Look at this jellyfish they invented. That is beautiful, and it moves so naturally. I mean, arguably jellyfish don't move very well, period. I mean, I don't know. In the ocean, you can move in different ways and it works. But there's no doubt about it. There's a calmness, there's a beauty, and I know the real ones would sting the crap out of you, but it's interesting to see robotic form factors that are mimicking nature and might end up all over the oceans and our rivers and our lakes. And look, if AGI becomes a thing, it might be very common to just go for a boat ride with your girlfriend out on the lake or whatever, and then you just see some of these robotic jellyfish. Not even sure who knows about them, who built them. They're just floating around. Okay, so this design is, crab-like, spider-like, scorpion-like, and it's, I don't know, pretty creepy, but, there's a certain kind of movement and form factor that nature has come across several times, for ants and other types of animals and bugs, and, it's a form factor that works for biology, so it's interesting to see it mimicked in this hardware form. I don't know, pretty creepy, but, there's a certain kind of movement and form factor that nature has come across several times, for ants and other types of animals and bugs, and, it's a form factor that works for biology, so it's interesting to see it mimicked in this hardware form. But here's where it gets weird. That form factor that kind of looks like an ant or whatever, it can actually rotate into an actual ball. Look at this thing. It's a freaking ball, and it can just roll like that and keep pushing itself with that extra arm. What in the hell is that? Who built that? That is so different. I mean, bats are cool, but butterflies, they're romantic, they're beautiful, they're soft. Well, that one's pretty big. Butterflies that big haven't been around since the dinosaurs, but there's a different amount of oxygen on the planet back then. Allowed animals to get bigger, but I digress. They look cool. I mean, they got the form factor and the shape, and they seem to fly, and very organic way to just have these things fluttering around maybe our offices in the future, just dropping off packages or notes or envelopes or whatever, or doing nothing, just entertaining us as we hang out in buildings. And look, if you happen to be one of those people that are into the Australia doesn't exist conspiracy, I mean, I'm not, but I know that part of that lore is that all kangaroos are robots. Yeah, in my head I was one more reason why that's not true, because I don't think you can build a robotic kangaroo. And then I saw this and it was uploaded 6 years ago. So yeah, maybe kangaroos are robots. Look at how well this thing jumps. Boom, slow motion, hop and drop. Maybe just put a 3D printer in the pouch and like makes little robots, like little jumping robots. Who knows where this is all going? Now, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan and you're a Cyberpunk 2077 fan, you've always probably dreamed of a crossover. Well, today, you do not need to wait any longer. Check out this AI-generated video of Gandalf in the year 2077.
Even the tiniest hacker can change the future's code.
Whoa.
Racing. All this struggle for such a small chip.
They're taking the hackers to Arasaka.
The chip will try to hack your mind.
He suffered, Gandalf. He did.
Access denied!
Oh my god, access denied, thou shalt not compute. All right, let's be honest. I agree with this comment 100%. I would watch the full version, and we probably will have the opportunity to in our lifetimes. Dang, look, Gandalf, 2077. Somehow I feel like The Lord of the Rings was like full of people that didn't age. So maybe they could still be around in 2077.
You have my blade. And you have my sniper.
And my hacks.
My blade, my sniper, and my hacks? The Netrunners have to get to the Eye of Sauron? Dude, I could have played that role before my eye got better. Look, as much as I wanted to joke about this, this is actually how I feel. The thing is that nobody is stopping anyone from writing an epic cyberpunk story using the tale of Lord of the Rings as a basis. Can someone please make this mod for Cyberpunk? I want to do this quest so bad. Look, please make it a full movie. Fire, fire, fire. I'd watch. Really into this. Former President Donald Trump went on Logan Paul's podcast to talk about how ChatGPT can write presidential speeches.
They're talking about AI. And they showed me things, but I've seen things that are so, you wouldn't even think it's possible.
So Donald Trump says that he's seen some things that you want to think are possible.
They made a commercial, me promoting a product, and it wasn't me. And I said, did I make that commercial?
So he clearly understands that deepfakes can be very realistic.
We have to be at the forefront. It's going to happen. And if it's going to happen, we have to take the lead over China. China's the primary threat in terms of that. What they need more than anything else is electricity.
So honestly, I was pretty surprised and impressed that he knew that electricity was the problem, that he's taking China serious as an AI competitor.
He said, oh, you're going to make a speech? Yeah. He goes, click, click, click. And like 15 seconds later, he shows me my speech. You just say, I'm writing a speech about these two young, beautiful men that are great fighters and sort of great at a lot of things. And tell me about them and say some nice things, and period.
You know what? That is incredible. Let's try it. So I'm writing a speech about these two young, beautiful men that are great fighters. Tell me about them and say some nice things. Sure, here's a speech about two young, beautiful men who are great fighters. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I have the honor of speaking about these two remarkable individuals that stand as paragons of strength, courage, and grace. These two young men are not just fighters in the literal sense, they embody the spirit and determination of excellence in everything that they do. Their victories are not just their own, they inspire everyone who watches them to push beyond the limits and strive for greatness. In their eyes, we see a fire that burns brightly, a fire fueled by passion, ambition, and an unshakable belief in themselves. And can an actual human who is a former president do any better? Let's see what he thinks ChatGPT will actually come up with.
Logan in particular is a great champion. Jake is also good. See, I'm doing that only because you happen to.
I appreciate
that.
that.
But no, it comes out with the most beautiful writing.
So Harvard and Google's DeepMind team have actually unified to create a virtual rat brain. I know, I kid you not, but this virtual rat brain that lives online has the same shape and neural patterns as a rat, like a real rat. In fact, they used real rat data. They trained an AI to mimic behaviors in a physics simulator, and then got the virtual rat's neural activity to closely match that of the real rat. The feat represents a new approach to studying how the brain controls movement. Okay, so just to be clear about this, there is a virtual rat that has biomechanically the same body shape as the real rat. Basically like a character that's rigged or whatever. It has like the same bone structure and face structure. So the brain of the actual rat, when it says like move my right paw or whatever, it could, in theory, move the right paw of the virtual one. They're kind of one-to-one clones, right? They're digital twins. And then they've built a virtual brain. They've tried to simulate the way the brain works and how it moves the mechanics of the real rat in the entire virtual environment. So it's not like a diffusion model where you might say something like, go find food, and you type it in, and then it like has learned how to make the kind of animations that going and finding food look like. The virtual brain actually shows a similar neural activity pattern to the actual rat when the virtual one is moving versus when the real one is moving. So instead, they're using this whole different system. This meant, according to ChatGPT, explain the inverse dynamics modeling, which is what it's called. It says that that's a computational approach to determine the forces and torques needed to produce specific movements or trajectories. Essentially, it works backwards from the desired motion to calculate the necessary inputs for each joint muscle in the system. But then on top of that, this computational approach also brings in principles of mechanics. So it's got physics, factors like gravity, inertia, friction are all wrapped into it. So yeah, it's predicting the command that the brain would send to the muscle. So it's not mimicking all of the neurons or anything in the rat brain, but it is a specific model that is learning to control the body in the exact same way our bodies actually get signals that control them right now. That's crazy. But you can read more at Neuroscience News or check out the AI Revolution did a great video on it too. So now let's talk about a new company called Glacier that is using AI-powered robots to improve recycling efficiency. So yeah, these guys are building the next generation of robotics for recycling. I mean, look at that thing just picking up the recycling. But their robots are capable of sorting through 45 items per minute with high accuracy, and they use a combination of AI systems that are vision systems and robotic arms. Right now, the robots are trained to identify over 30 different materials, but where these big systems are in place, they can prevent millions of items from going into the landfill that can be recycled. Okay, so we're going to talk about this new AI-powered tool for cancer detection. The tool is technically called MRD-Edge, and it is making waves in cancer detection because it's looking for DNA in the blood. That kind of tumor DNA is called ctDNA. So the method actually detected 5 different patients who had colorectal cancer, and it did it with no false negatives. So these researchers are talking about just how early we can start detecting some of these things. Imagine how powerful that is. But what's really crazy about this is it's just a blood test, right? Like you can actually just send your blood in for random checkups or other reasons, and they can just run this test on it. And if they can identify the kind of DNA, whatever the ctDNA exactly is that comes from tumors, then they can also detect the kind of tumors that are lung tumors, melanoma, breast cancer tumors, colorectal cancer tumors, and pancreas tumors. And listen to this quote. "We were able to achieve a remarkable signal-to-noise enhancement, and this enabled us, for example, to detect cancer recurrences months or even years before standard clinical methods did." Boom. You know what I mean? So the military is now using AI to both design and 3D print drones 48 hours. Task Force 99. It is a small U.S. Air Force group based in Qatar, and it was established as, quote, an experimental unit in 2022. But here's where it gets crazy, because in March of 2024, Task Force 99 actually conducted a flight assessment of a 3D printed drone. And it was done alongside this company that actually makes and sells aerospace battlefield simulation software. So imagine how crazy that is, that once you get this simulation software and you start building these virtual agents that can be in any form factor, and then you also say, why don't you just design a 3D printed remote control airplane or just autonomous airplane and put yourself in it and then go make those decisions. That could be done at like such a volume if you could 3D print these things in 48 hours. And with one of the main drones that the US Army is using right now, which is called the Reaper, it comes with a price tag of about $30 million. So as the article says, there's clearly a priority for the US to find a way to achieve the same performance with smaller, cheaper hardware. All right, so I hate to tell you about losers in an AI contest, but that's exactly what I'm going to talk about now. So the photographer Miles Astray subverted the trend of artificial intelligent pictures by actually entering a competition that was only for AI-generated images, but he secretly used a real photo, a pretty obscure photo nonetheless, of a bird that kind of looks like it has no head, but this is actually a photo. I think the head's just behind it and it looks like in a weird way that it doesn't have one. But this is an actual photo of a flamingo. And he said, I deliberately chose a picture that is so surreal to the point of unbelievable that it could easily be attributed to AI being at play. So this is the striking image that won the competition, an orb of pink feathers standing atop 2 knobby legs, and it convinced a panel of judges to award him with the 3rd place in the, quote, AI-generated, unquote, category. of the award. I mean, can you believe he would cheat in an AI contest with a real photo? In a statement, the organization that awards people this award said that he had, quote, a powerful message, unquote, but the photo entry was nonetheless unfair, so had to be revoked. It's just weird because every once in a while these kind of articles pop up, and there was like that guy who got the Sony award with photography by using something with AI, and then they had to revoke that. And then like about a month ago, I covered like the AI beauty awards for the virtual influencers, and it's just like the whole thing's just kind of weird to get my head around. But like, man, I get it. It is quite the weird photo. But you know, it looks pretty real to me, sort of. But then I guess the background being sort of bokeh like that, or bokeh, or however you say that, like kind of blurry, and then the way the feet are in the snow, I mean, that's a real photo, so that's really how it works, but it looks kind of fake to me. Who knows what's real anymore? So OpenAI has now added a cybersecurity expert to their board of directors. This guy is the U.S. Army General Paul M. Nakasone. He is the former commander of U.S. Cyber Command. So cool. Oh my gosh, look at all those pins on his chest, all those awards. He's so decorated. So he commanded the Cyber National Mission Force at U.S. Cyber Command. He's also commanded a company, a battalion, a brigade, and served as other senior intelligence officers at the battalion, division, and corps levels. So OpenAI is saying that his insights will contribute to OpenAI's effort to better understand how AI can be used to strengthen cybersecurity by quickly detecting and responding to cybersecurity threats. I mean, we just heard Leopold talking about this on that podcast, that like he's really worried about foreign actors stealing the weights of these models. So look, I mean, he's a leading expert in cybersecurity. He has a board seat now. I think that's a pretty good move, actually. Gosh, you never know with OpenAI. Sometimes like bad guys, good guys. Sam Altman seems like corrupt, and then he seems genuine, and then all of a sudden he seems dangerous. And so check out what MIT is doing with genetics and storage of them for centuries in a glassy amber-like polymer that is ideal for long-term DNA storage. And it looks just like the amber that bug was found in the movie Jurassic Park, but it's actually capable of preserving the entire human genome or any digital photos that you want to convert and store in the form of DNA. So you probably already know this, but just to be on the same page, it is impossible to clone a dinosaur. Like even an amber, which does protect DNA, or a bug that has some DNA in them for a while, it's not going to make it for the 250 million years we need to get dinosaur DNA. But this thing that's even better than amber might last for centuries, but starting from now going forward. Okay, so and I didn't know this, but one of the problems with storing DNA right now is that it requires freezing temperatures, which consume a bunch of energy. They make it impractical in many areas. So in contrast, this new material that MIT has come up with is actually about storing DNA at room temperature and safeguarding the molecules from damage by heat or moisture. Now, it seems a little weird to me that something like a CD just degrades so much because, you know, it's like they etched in little dots. You just think they're in plastic. They should last as long as plastic does. But I guess those four nucleotides, you know, A, T, G, and C certainly like to just lock together and stay together. And I mean, all of life for billions of years has been using that as a storage mechanism. So this new material is a hydrophobic amber-like thermostat polymer from styrene and a cross-linker that protects DNA from moisture. I mean, honestly, I don't get all of that, but it sounds like a crazy tough, protective, and long-lasting material. All right, Grimlock, are you ready to transform into research?
No care about Autobots. Meet Grimlock Dinobots.
Okay, so the first paper we're going to talk about today is called Show Don't Tell, Aligning Language Models with Demonstrated Feedback. All right, so this research is coming out of Stanford, and it introduces us to a method called Demonstrated Iterated Task Opposition, or they just call it Ditto for short. And its goal is to align large language models like ChatGPT to specific tasks using a very small number of user-provided examples. So unlike traditional methods that take a big data set, Ditto leverages fewer than 10 demonstrations to align a model's behavior. So one of the things about large language models that separates it from the way the human brain works is just how many freaking examples. Like humans just tend not to need thousands and thousands and thousands of examples to sort of get something basic. And it seems like Ditto is giving that same kind of power to large language models. And what it's doing is giving a little bit of structure to the model, like deeper down, so that when it sees something, it can kind of learn it quicker and deeper. So the approach uses online imitation learning to treat user demonstrations as preferred outcomes over the model output. So it's kind of iterating itself from one example. So it's kind of learning lots and lots, which maybe humans see it once and we go to sleep and we replay it or something. All right, next up, let's talk about Parrot, which is a multilingual visual instruction tuning paper. So this paper is introducing something called Parrot. It is a new method for improving how AI models understand and generate multiple languages when dealing with images and text together. All right, so typically a model like GPT-4 Vision starts to lose its multilingual skills because they're mostly trained with English-centric data. But Parrot is a system that uses something different. It uses an MOE, a mixture of experts, to align visual tokens with different languages. And that makes it better at understanding and responding to visual images in multiple languages. And then along with this tool for moving the tokens around the visual tokens, they also created this huge multilingual benchmark. It's called the MMMB, and it's got 12,000 questions across 6 different languages to test these skills. So it can do a better job of figuring out if these models are actually multilingual or not. And by the way, if you do use, of course, their new measurement device, their model Parrot also shows up as the top performer on that benchmark. But probably not in this paper, but I'm definitely going to be talking about some of the benchmarks because from a lot of stuff I'm learning from AI Explained mostly, he was talking about just how bad these benchmarks are. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I need to get my head around when you should trust them, when you shouldn't, what they're doing differently, which companies are kind of manipulating them to make their models look better, and do they really actually perform in the same way the model benchmarks go? Not really. But we'll save that discussion for another day. Now let's talk about this paper, Lighting Every Darkness with 3GS, the fast training and real-time rendering for HDR view synthesis. All right, so here it is. We're talking about Gaussian splatting again. By the way, thanks to the commenters who pointed out that I kept saying Gaussian splattering when it was actually Gaussian splatting. But this paper introduces LE3D, Lighting Everyday Darkness with 3D Gaussian splatting. And it is a method for high dynamic range view synthesis from noisy raw images. So to explain that, HDR, which I sometimes film in, I find it very interesting. I have actually an HDR monitor. It has more distance between the black and the white. Like there's, I think, 1,000 lumens between them, where something like Rec 702, which is like what most monitors are in most TVs, they don't have quite as much difference between white and black. And I'm talking about distance in terms of contrast and brightness. So the whites are just literally brighter and there's more contrast also. So we're synthesizing HDR from noisy raw images. So this model, this LE3D, it addresses challenges in nighttime scene and it achieves real-time rendering with faster training times compared to previous methods. So yeah, check this out. I mean, you can see in real time how you can change all sorts of crazy things about this image. The exposure going up all the way and down all the way. The white balance can be adjusted. Exposure, Kelvin, curve control, full HDR. Look, you can even change the exposure positions. Wow, this one in particular, look at that bookshelf just come alive. Yeah, that really brightens up the scene. That's amazing. So LE3D has a natural noise resistance similar to raw nerf, which is attributed to the noise-to-noise assumption and the fact that the noise is entirely located on the camera plane rather than being in distributed space. Oh, very interesting. All right, another computer vision and pattern recognition paper. This is called Generalizable Human Gaussian from Single View Image. I feel like I had to show it because, like, just look at how interesting the demo is. Like, you can actually take a single photo of someone with the background cut out and then just spin them around in 3D. This guy in the white shirt, he's got his hands stretched out in the victory pose. Look at him going around once he gets into 3D. Does it work on women? Let's see. Whoa, that woman is spinning around with her arms in the power position. And this guy with his hips very far to the right stays out there in a beautiful ballerina spin. You know, once you have full control, like this guy, I can do anything I want, any position I want to put him in. He can be in that awesome skateboard legs out position. I could have him riding a surf wave. Whoosh. Oh, don't fall over, bro. Stay up. He could be grinding a rail. Tony Hawk style. So how did they do it? Because the big challenge that these guys are overcoming is how do you make a 3D model look detailed and realistic, especially the parts that you can't see? Like if it's a front-facing photo of a person, how do you know what their back even looks like? So these authors came up with a new model. It's called the Human Gaussian model, or the HGM for short. And it does essentially a step-by-step approach. They first create a rough 3D model, and then it refines it using a diffusion model. All of this is generative AI. And then they also use something that is called the SMPL model, and that makes sure that the geometry and the pose is accurate, which is essentially its own AI model that's learned how human poses do look and what the average person looks like on the backside when you spin them around. And then using all of these little methods together into this HGM model, you get some pretty accurate 3D reconstructions, but it also tends to work pretty well with real-world images, including cartoons. And it's been tested on several data sets, and so far it seems to be performing better than existing models, both in terms of visual quality and speed. And overall, it's making some pretty realistic 3D human models from just a single photo. All right, so I have been asked to give my thoughts on what would happen if Elon Musk didn't get that big pay package. And now that I know he did get it, but before the question was asked, it was like, I don't know if he's going to get it. And if he doesn't, what if the board ends up letting go of Elon, or he leaves because he doesn't get his $50 billion and Mark Zuckerberg becomes the new CEO of Tesla? And honestly, I don't know how realistic that could be, but if it would have happened and Elon left, and, you know, Zuck was like, okay, I'll do this. I want like more robotics under my belt. I can be the CEO. I can tie in all of the Tesla infrastructure with the Dojo supercomputer into what we're doing with AI and their open source models. Would it be a good fit to have Zuckerberg as the CEO of Tesla? You know, of course it would be just like in Silicon Valley, where like the billionaires are just like fighting over power and control and like first to like achieve AGI and like make billions with startups. And then I was thinking about everybody's Tesla cars and how they could be integrated more socially. Like Meta's going for this whole virtual reality play, right? They're renaming the whole company around the metaverse. And with all of the Teslas mapping the real world so well, it seems like they would be in a position where they could build like a true digital clone, potentially, like a digital twin of Earth, and have it updated through the Optimus robots and through the Tesla self-driving cars all of the time in real time. So something like Google Maps, but also with a social element where each car and robot is connected to a person. And that's a person who's left their digital identity on Facebook already. And right now, at least, Tesla doesn't do anything with VR. So would Zuckerberg take all of the hardware that they're starting to build with headsets, the Quest 2 and 3, I think the Quest Pro, and start integrating that kind of an experience into a car? Like, could you be at home maybe driving your car, your Tesla's automated self-driving, or you're remote controlling it through the VR headset? Or could you put the VR headset on when you're driving and it would like augment your dashboard and help you drive? Or could that same software that powers that ecosystem actually show up, maybe projected onto the front windshield of the Tesla? I mean, an Oculus VR play along with a humanoid like Optimus, or even a car experience, might be a new way to connect everything. Out of all of Elon Musk's like projects, the one that's furthest along in AI is Tesla. So even though XAI is great and Grok is a really interesting large language model, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg's way further ahead in that space. He's also all about open sourcing. They have much more resources over there devoted to AI. So if Elon lost all of the advantages that came with Tesla by leaving as the CEO, and it was integrated with Mark Zuckerberg's companies, the combination that they have already with the lead in vision, because they have so much more social media data to work with, and they've been doing it for so much longer, and it's pretty much more accurate, especially to the real social graph, than anything X is doing. And they had the hardware side of it and the VR side of it. It's just, and the robotic side of it, which is kind of what they're missing right now. It would be a pretty interesting combination for a company. And the board, if Elon didn't end up staying the CEO of Tesla and they picked Mark Zuckerberg, probably would do really well. Like, I don't know if Tesla stock would necessarily fall without Elon if Mark Zuckerberg was willing to like really push his resources, his vision, his net worth into it in the same way. So I don't know. Leave your thoughts below what you think. Zuckerberg, CEO of Tesla, would it be good? Would it be bad? What do you think? And I'll leave you with my 3 favorite chapter markers in the form of a song. Cool.
Donald Trump told Logan Paul ChatGPT can write speeches. Harvard and Google DeepMind developed a virtual brain.
Dang.
Harvard and Google DeepMind developed a virtual brain.
Dang, that's hitting hard, bro. All right, keep on partying all night. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you in the next video. That's what I'm talking about. Take me out. Yeah.